Hello, and welcome to another episode of A Podversation with. I'm your host, Josh Paladini. In this episode, I will be joined by the fabulous Freddy G, New York City comedian and comedy producer. We'll talk about his origins into comedy, his philosophies behind work climbing the ladder and stand-up. We'll talk about his producing of shows, and a few other things in between. Thanks for tuning in.
What?
Oh, we're recording now?
Yes, we're recording now.
Oh, okay.
Fred had his apple, so now we can start. I'm sitting here with the brilliant Freddy G, great New York City comic.
Also, man, that's quite the introduction.
Also now a mover and shaker behind the scenes. You produce 3 shows?
Two. I basically produce 5 shows a month at QED.
Wow.
A weekly show, Last Up Laughs. It's 11 p.m. every Saturday. And then also QED's QEDastoria.com if you I want to assume the audience has heard it. And then a show the first Wednesday of every month at 9. It's the duo show. It's 2 stand-ups performing at once. And I've begun hosting it solo to kind of be like, I'm bringing you the duos, but yeah, I'm not. So that's a show that I host and produce. And
I know it's like a simple way to start, but
that's good. Start simple.
It's fascinating to me to think, like, you strike me as the kind of guy that at 7 years old, that you were like 7 going on 30.
That makes sense. Yeah, very neurotic.
Were you like a very self-aware kind of kid and
so we're picking
bit...
7. I mean, it's 5. Oh no, because like every year's different. Like at 5, I was so nervous sometimes I had trouble eating. And at 9, it was like way worse, and I was occasionally getting so anxious that I would like throw up. Like I was just like a bundle of nerves. But then at other ages, I was happy. So yeah, I was always neurotic and just overcome by anxiety, depression kind of issues, whatever. But yeah, I don't really think I enjoy being a kid that much. Sometimes though, like playing video games.
Yeah. But that's not even what I mean. It's more just your perception of things and like your taste. Like like certain kids grew up listening to Raffi records and whatever, and then some other kids just didn't. Some other kids always thought that they were too grown up for some more of the childlike things, even if.
Like when I was 4, I stopped watching Sesame Street, and I think my dad had told me like, yeah, you can watch this till you're 5, but when I was 4, I was done with it. So that's a good example of that.
You had outgrown it.
Something. I don't remember why. Probably had outgrown it though.
Were you always a funny kid?
I don't know. Maybe I don't know. My friend Mark thought I was funny when I was 9. I remember that's the first time someone finding me funny. I don't come from a family of people who perform, so it was never an idea like, oh, you could perform. And there's always the myth that people that loser families or people who come from loser families say is you have to know somebody or whatever. People who want to close doors themselves just think, oh, I would already have had to have done something or known someone. So even though like I had a college TV show, it wasn't ever like, no one was ever like, oh, you're funny, you should actually like learn how to do comedy. And I went to a couple short form improv shows with people who knew me from the show, but the show was just like, oh, Fred, you're a jerk and you've got the show you're obsessed with, whatever. But there was never anything like that. So I never really thought about doing comedy till later on.
Oh, okay. Do you remember the first stand-up stuff that you saw? Or?
I used to watch Carlin's HBO specials, and then Chris Rock too. And he's the man. Yeah, that's as far as like just doing material. He's everything I'd want to be.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, now I just did a set before we came here, and I stood in the same place the entire set. And he walks around. I am hoping at some point I'll become where I walk around or whatever. I don't know, but I mean, I kind of just stand there and say jokes. So I'm really nothing like him. But that's who I want. That's who I'm trying to be, I guess. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
Well,
when I think of a stand-up, I'm not thinking about like another deadpan person.
Oh, okay.
Well, I've been listening to Todd Barry, and he I think it's more like kind of like I've only seen his crowd work tour, but I feel like that's kind of like a style of like he's probably not moving around and stuff.
Yeah, I wouldn't reckon so.
Yeah.
But then again, I don't know. It's weird. Like it's funny that you mentioned that because I think about that a lot. Because I like Patrice, and Patrice in club shows will just go sit down on a stool, and then if you watch Elephant in the Room, like he's actually he's moving around, and I think it does make for a different different type of performance.
I've done the stool thing mostly with new material because I'll have the book of jokes in my lap. The stool thing's awesome. I may do a period where I'm like doing actual shows on stools. I don't think yet. It's probably not ready to do it yet. I should probably at least be bringing the energy of standing.
Mm-hmm.
But to sit down. I love sitting. I sit for a living. I'm the guy. You get out of work. You were sitting for 10 hours. I work office jobs. And then you just sit in the subway, and your coworkers will be like, "Oh, I sat all day," and I'm like, "No, I can sit some more."
No amount of sitting is too much for you.
Occasionally, if it's like a wooden stool, my butt starts to hurt.
Wow,
occasionally, I'll need to stand, but in general, my capacity to sit is greater than most people. If only that was a sport.
Well, I mean, if you incorporated rowing or whatever, then you could be on.
Oh yeah.
In crew.
That's a good point.
But then again, that's pretty strenuous stuff.
No, that's a whole. I don't have the skills for crew. I think you gotta be a boring. You think anyone ever did crew who was that interesting of a person? That feels like a boring person sport.
I don't want to say because you never know, but
yeah, you got a lot of crew listeners.
Well, I don't know, but just based upon what I know so far, I would agree with you. Yes, it does. But the core strength, I mean.
Oh yeah, I would love to take a
like
month.
The most in shape because they never stop reminding you of it. That crew is probably the hardest.
Yeah, I would love to go. I got tendinitis and stuff, but I would love to take a month and like be part of a crew team and like bond together and become great at crew. It's a morning person sport. That's also so it's probably a lot of creative people are night people.
Yep.
So it's a morning. You're getting up early. You're in a lake before class. I feel like you got to be in college. I couldn't picture high schoolers or people over 22 doing crew. I mean, I don't know what the Olympic
people
teams
still
are.
do it.
Oh,
there's a lot of kayakers in Florida. Which is, I guess, the equivalent. And they do a lot of rafting in Florida, too. People are always trying to get me to go.
Yeah, kayaking's crew for antisocial people. I used to watch it on the Olympics because it was on, it was on the NBC during the day during the last Olympics. Like I said, I was home or something. And it's fun to watch. There's something in the background.
How did you get a TV show in college?
It was the TV station. It's not a college of creative people. Binghamton University, good school in many ways. Not a lot of creative people. There was a lot. The TV station had a lot of AV dorks. So I just started hanging out there. Then I was the news guy on some show, and I'm not good at reading stuff, but I guess it didn't matter. Then one day we didn't have any news because people were lazy, so we had to talk on the couch, and I just started saying like outrageous stuff. And it was like my hero was like Howard Stern. And we got a lot of calls. The only way you could tell if you got a lot of people watching was the calls. And when I got obsessed with the TV station, I would talk about ratings, even though there wasn't ratings. But it would definitely, because people would do a TV show, even if it's a college TV show, without regard to if people were watching or what the people watching would want. And to me, it's obviously any performance you want the people watching to enjoy it. So yeah, that, and then I eventually was like, okay, I'll have my own show, and then I just did it. If you're willing to work hard, you could have a show. There was no kind of audition or anything. And the other people at the station, I think I annoyed them, so they didn't like me. It was like this guy or whatever. But I mean, it was a fun show. It also coincided with that. I think I also I started taking antidepressants right around then too. I think I started working the TV show at the beginning of the semester, so like February, late January, and then I got on antidepressants, and like by late February I was feeling good, and I just started my own show, and it was just wonderful.
So, your show was like Howard Stern influenced?
I remember calling it, I don't know if, a little bit, I remember calling it Howard Stern, a combination of Howard Stern, Jerry Springer, and the voices in my head.
So you would have guests on and stuff like that?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it wasn't me telling jokes. We would have guests. The big thing we did, and it sounds silly now, is we got strippers on the first episode, very Howard Stern influence. And it was very last minute. We went to the strip club once earlier, and we talked to them, and we thought we had strippers. Then we went the day of it. Of course, it's different strippers.
Right.
And we somehow convinced them that there was going to be guys who'd pay the money. And I think they felt very ripped off. I think eventually they got someone to give them a bunch of money before they left.
Huh.
And then I had to pay that guy back. That guy was... But we got the strippers. So then they got topless. They weren't... they were Binghamton strippers who were at the strip club at 4 or 5 p.m. on a Monday.
Okay.
So they weren't terribly attractive.
Right.
That was actually... The weirdest thing is, on the first episode of the show, that was the first time, like, a woman... Like, I had never gotten a lap dance, or, like... And I really hadn't dated anybody. So, like, the first time a half-naked woman sat on my lap was on this TV show. And I gave a look like that was the case. And that was, yeah.
Did you record any of the shows? Do you have any of them on tape?
This tape somewhere in my parents' basement. I don't know if that episode doesn't have a tape, and then there was, like, a guy who worked at the dining hall who had a tape, and then he always said he would give it to me, but he didn't, because he was on the second episode. And then there was, like, this guy, a friend of a friend who had a tape, and I don't remember if I ever got it. You know, it was like, yeah, like, it would be cool to have the tape. Or maybe it would be bad, I'd have to destroy it. It's also, I mean, there's some tape, I think there's some kind of CDs in my parents' house. It would be just me not being that funny, but just talking. And I remember even the last episode, I still seemed really nervous. Because it was like having the show without having any of there was no foundation. It was just like, oh, okay, here's the show. And there was like more experienced people who were... it wasn't like a more experienced person, like, there was no mentorship or anything. It wasn't like, oh, this guy was like, had a funny show for 4 years and he's going to mentor you, Fred. It wasn't like that. It was like, okay, you're just a pirate, whatever, you're just doing this
It's
thing.
all on your own.
They almost shut the TV station down after the nudity. I didn't get in trouble. The head of the TV station had come with me to the strip club. He was like a senior and he didn't care. So I guess he almost got in trouble and they almost shut the station down. And then they said no more nudity.
Wow. Pretty controversial.
Yeah, and I got on the cover. Me, the stripper on my lap, got on the cover of the school paper. That was pretty exciting. That's probably somewhere in my dad's, in my parents' attic.
That's awesome. How long did you do the show?
It was like 5 episodes the first year, and then 6 more the second year, and then I stopped. I ran the third. Then there was another semester, and I was just like, I couldn't think of any more ideas, and it was just like. I had more friends, and I was just gonna like hang out with my friends.
How long was the show?
It's like the first episode was like 2 hours. Because here's my idea. I'm like, okay, we're gonna have strippers, and we're gonna have an Iraq debate. The Iraq was ready to be an Iraq war. And we're gonna have the most conservative person and the most liberal person. We're gonna have a debate. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna put the strippers in the first half and the Iraq debate in the second half. That's like the worst TV thing ever. Obviously, we would put the nudity at the end of the episode.
Right, make them wait. Right.
Yeah, so I'm sure no one watched after that. But it was, so that was like 2 hours. But then I think then it was a half an hour, and then we had the tapes of the half an hour one. There was one, it was called Winfred's Soul. It was a game show where people of 3 religions competed to win me, and I was going to convert to the religion. But then it was just decided by call. Everything was decided by callers. And then one guy just had his friends call in because we had a gift certificate to Outback. The weirdest thing was I went to Outback and asked if they wanted to sponsor my show. And they didn't ask for any information, and they just gave me a $50 gift certificate. So then I could have just used that gift certificate, but I honestly kept it for like 6 months and then gave it away in this episode. But my friend had gotten the RA to agree to go on a date with him if he won. So he had his friends call in, and then he won the show. I can't remember if she actually went with him or not. Hopefully for her sake she didn't, because there wasn't going to be a love connection.
Yeah, I mean if you going out with somebody is contingent on them having a gift certificate or not to the semi-nice restaurant.
Yeah, it wasn't going to be like it was more of it was going to be an unrequited love kind of thing.
Do you remember any other kind of stuff you did on the show? Like stuff that you particularly are proud of or enjoy doing or anything?
We had a dating game episode. There was one guy, he was my personal trainer, and then we had him be a male stripper in the first episode, so he took his shirt off. He was a trainer. He was in good shape for a personal trainer at the Binghamton University gym. But he was actually not in great shape. Then we had him in the second episode because he said he had male anorexia. And I was really thin in high school, so I decided that I used to have male anorexia. So we talked about that, and we had like a serious person on. And then the third episode, we gave away a date with him, and the fourth episode was that date. Oh yeah, so the first time I was ever at a date was on the show also. It was me following around that date. It wasn't a date that I was on. But it was me following, yeah. So the show was a lot of me experiencing things I hadn't experienced.
Oh, that's
So I was pretty
cool.
sheltered in high school.
It's I mean, did you consciously use it as an opportunity for that, or was that just kind of how it
It was
played
like,
out?
what can we do? What do I like? I like dating shows. We did a cool thing. MTV Cribs had just come out. So this is all like the whole show was in 2003. So I'm like, and the show was called Fred TV. So I'm like, FTV Cribs is going to be us going to a trailer park. So we went to the trailer park and we got videos inside people's trailers. It was very scary. We easily could have gotten murdered. Also, the trailer park was next to Walmart, as all trailer parks should be. And then one guy who let us in his place, and then he had a Confederate flag with a swastika on it. And I think, looking back, I think two of the guys who were there were Jews. Then at some point the police came and like kind of yelled at us like that we were obviously exploiting people or whatever. And the people I was with didn't have enough balls to like keep taping, so we just went home. But we did play that. We edited it together and we played it. It was played to MTV's Eminem's song Rock Bottom. That was a nice thing. That was a well produced. That was their best produced segment. I also never learned any technical things. So it was always just I had to have the other people do the technical stuff.
Did you not want to learn, or just?
I guess
you
I
didn't
thought
have the
I didn't think I'd
opportunity?
be good at it, and then I probably, and then like it was just like okay, other people will do it. I know what there was no train. I learned there was no training of any kind at the TV station. For me, I never learned anything technical or learned like how to be better on air or be a better comic. It was just me doing this thing, and like enjoying it, and like some people were watching, and people would recognize me and be like, "Are you Fred TV?" So that would be kind of fun. Oh, second year we taped an intro song, and it was me being chased by a guy in a chicken suit around the campus, or like a rooster. Like his joke was that it was a big cock or whatever, and I got chased to the studio. And then we told the paper beforehand, so they put us on the cover again.
Nice.
So we got on the cover twice for the paper. So there was a little, got a little buzz here and there. It was a great experience. But then it was just like, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna what now? Like, it's so hard to get a real TV show. Like, what? I'm gonna go to like a broadcasting. It was just like, there was no one who was like, oh, Fred, you should try improv, or you should try to go to an open mic. There was no one who said that stuff. It's also Binghamton was full of a lot of people who were then gonna have corporate jobs. So it wasn't like a lot of creative people. The most creative thing people did was just find creative ways to be more extreme about hating Bush. There was a lot of there's a lot of like people, like more artsy people, just hippie type people like hating Bush, and then there was a lot of people who were probably going to have corporate jobs. I'm sure some of the hippie people then ended up having corporate jobs also, but I didn't. I kept in touch with so few people from college.
Yeah. Did you have a lot of friends, or?
At some point, I did have a lot of friends, but it was like a lot of friends through a couple friends. Like I met friends with a couple people, and they had a lot of friends. And then those two friends I stopped being friends with after college, so I lost touch with everyone else.
How did you, so how long did you go, you did improv before stand-up?
I did, so it's like 2009, I'm like, I gotta meet women, gotta do something. I'm bad at dating sites. Also, this is, for you kids, this is before there was swiping on dating sites.
Right.
You had to just message people. You had no idea if the people you were messaging were attracted to you or not. Way back in the day. Sorry, the bit didn't go anywhere. And it's like, okay, got to do something. So I did Toastmasters. Toastmasters was, I think, the first place I did anything even close to stand up. I did an acting class.
What's Toastmasters?
It's a public speaking organization. It's just people who are nervous about public speaking get in rooms and just do speeches for each other.
Okay.
It's good. They were like, they've been around a while, and they somewhat rest on their laurels. Like, they still, most of the money they make is making you pay $20 for like a paper book of like the same speeches that have been around forever. So it's like, they didn't, like when I became president of the club at some point, and it's just like, this is not an organization. Like it's good for public speaking, but it's like, like once you start like really working at something, you're like, this place is just run like it felt like it was run like the government. And like they would have these goals for the clubs, and you wouldn't get anything if you met the goals, which was so frustrating. It's like, obviously you should be, if there's goals and we meet them, you should be giving us stuff. Because then they would like try to sell us like spots at a conference. It's like, you should then give us spots at the conference if we meet them. There needs to be incentive.
Right.
It just, as the capitalist in me or whatever, the capitalist in me was just disgusted by like the setup. Once I became like president, I would recommend to anyone out there going to Toastmasters, get better public speaking, all that. So yeah, I should be Toastmasters. Then an acting class. In the acting class, it was just like nice method acting. This teacher who was awesome, like he was awesome, but like also he'd been around forever, and like it was a cheap class. So you had to like, it was kind of like a list open mic. Like you had better get on the list early, or you're not going to get to go to this class. And then we had a scene where we had to eat, and I ate a banana. So when I ate a banana, I peeled the whole thing, and that got a laugh. I peeled the whole banana and then started eating it, and that got a laugh. So I'm like, maybe I should be doing comedy. Then the next term, that's the beginning of 2010. I took improv, but instead of taking the regular improv, which would have been good for me, and it was an acting class. It wasn't like one of the major improv theaters. And then I took improv for playwriting. Because that was like, that worked out time-wise or something. I'm very into it in general. If things work well with my schedule, I'm much more likely to do them. It's got to all flow. So improv for playwrights was not great. There was one real improv class in there, which was good. But then there was a person from the class who was in like a showcase for playwrights, and then I ended up asking, me and my wife's first date was going to that showcase. So like, yeah, just good things were all happening then. This was also, again, the other one was like when I started taking antidepressants. Then this was like I went to a meditation seminar in 2009 and became like a much more mature person and much happier. So then this was again like things started picking up. That's why when you improve yourself as a person, then you're ready to do good things. Mm-hmm. So it's like you build the foundation first and then you kind of go out from there. So improv for playwrights. So did that. And I think I'd also at some point taken like, I've been taking writing classes, and I saw like a Gotham Writers, not Gotham Comedy Club. There was a class, stand-up comedy writing. I'm like, oh, that would be fun. I took one class, and we didn't even get on stage. We just sat there and read our notes. And I remember reading these notes, making fun of one of my coworkers, and like I just like was going to town and like saying mean things that I would never say at work. And it was and doing that, I was like, oh man, this is amazing. And there was like 3 people in the room, and I was sitting at a desk. So then I ended up taking the full class of that, and then we had a graduation show. So like by May of 2010 was the first time I got on stage at like a comedy club. It wasn't even a bringer show; it was a class graduation show. It was just kind of like a level below a bringer show. Like how, So that was kind of how I got started doing stand up. And yeah.
So what year was that?
This is 2010 in like May.
Okay.
And then so let's see. Then what did I do? I eventually then, we're going through it. This is nice. This is a nice long form. I don't have to shorten these things. So then it's like, I should obviously do improv. So I took I finally took the right improv class at the acting school. And for a while it was just like doing that. Like I did that for like 2 or 3 terms. And I was like getting better, but it wasn't like, there wasn't a form. And like, I would also have short scenes. People could like just have scenes where like they would never do anything funny, and they were like actors, and it was just the scene was gone forever. Like it wasn't like rigid. Like at a normal improv, at an improv school, like everyone's scenes are about the same length. Mm-hmm. I don't want to complain. See, I'm complaining about this is me. I don't forget things. I'm complaining about the length of improv scenes at a class I took 5.5 years ago.
Still,
but it was just like, you shouldn't get more stage time for being less good at improv. And like it would be like an improv scene that was like 15 minutes. Like in a class, like it was like, what is it? But it was a good class. It was good. And then, so I was doing that, and I stopped doing because stand-up's really hard to get into. I did a couple open mics after the graduation show, but it's just not easy. It's not an easy thing to get into. Like I did, and the mics I did were kind of terrible, and like it was just like unsupportive and scary. And like I was, I'd only been on stage a few times, and I was doing toast. I was busy, so then. But then, so I kept doing this improv. I was obviously enjoying this improv. I would be like considering going to grad school, but also like much more excited about the comedy. Mm-hmm. And then somehow we're in July of 2011. So then I go to my friend Matt Ford, who unlikely will listen to this, but he'd love a shout out if he ever. I'll shout him out on another podcast. I'll send him the link to this. He got a shout out. I go to his place in Baltimore for July 4th weekend, and we go to this guy's this other coworker. He was a coworker of mine. He's from England, but he was working in Baltimore, and I visited him. And we go to this guy's roof party for July 4th, and I'm really drunk. But it was like good drunk. Like I was just like drinking. I mean, I was really drunk later, but then we're on the roof watching the fireworks, and I'm sitting there. Like everyone's like oohing and eyeing, whatever, because all fireworks shows are the exact same fireworks. Is my theory, and people have the same reaction. I was just like, you can do comedy and not like quit your job. Like you just gotta become. But comedy's what you should be serious about. And then I got really drunk later in the night, and then in the car ride home, I was telling Matt this, and Matt was like, "Yeah, you should go for it," which was good because I feel like at that moment, like I would have probably wrote it off as like some stupid idea. You know what I mean? Like the very first time you think of something, if the person you ask tells you it's stupid, you might just forget.
Mm-hmm.
So he really helped me there, and I remember being so hungover at work. So after that, it was always like. I mean, I had the job. I was always working, but then comedy was like a second job. Like it was something like this is something I'm serious about. This isn't a hobby. Until then, it was a hobby. So what I did is started taking classes at Magnet, and I took another stand-up class with the same guy from Gotham Writers, like his private class. Like with other people though, wasn't it? Yeah. And then I was doing that. So I would do stand-up. I didn't really do mics, so I would go to his class, and then sometimes I was even working on sets that I was going to do with Toastmasters, like in a comedy competition. Like I just didn't like mics because I think people need the right way to start.
Mm-hmm.
So I was doing that, and then taking like level 1 at Magnet, which was great. Then level 2 at Magnet, and then around level 2 I took the stand-up class at the Pit with Tom Shalhoub, which was really great. And by then I had taken 2 stand-up classes already and done a few graduation shows. So I was, and most, people in stand-up classes were kind of doing it on a whim. I was like the really good guy in that class because I had like way more, everyone else had zero experience. So I seemed like a wily veteran. I remember having a good set there. That was when I thought of, I thought I had bits in that show that I still do, or like parts of it. Like that's when I thought of the cheese doodle pussy joke, for if any fans of mine are listening. Which is not based on which is only mildly based on true things, so I had to think of it. So then, did that. Okay, so we got the G. Then what was it? 11. So then, then the next time, so I did that. That I think got me a little more confidence to start doing mics. I think around then is when then we as a group, a bunch of people from that class, we said we'd all go to mics together, and we sort of did, but going to mics with 4 people, and a couple of them are like actors, it's really hard to all actually go to mics. And it would be like one mic on a Friday at a comedy club, and then you would have to like email ahead. It would just be like, it would be tough to even get on the mic. And it was just like we were kind of hanging out. Like, and the idea of doing multiple mics in a day, or, it was like a big deal to go to a mic. So we did it a few times. But I was like, okay, I'm pursuing this more. And then I'm still doing, because then level 3 at Magnet, still doing some mics. I went to my first Laughing Buddha mic. That was a big moment because that was a mic where I was actually like, this is like enjoyable. Because the other mics, this is in 11, the other mics were all just like, it was just a bunch of antisocial people in like some corner at a bar, or even like in a comic book store or like a bookstore in the basement. So this was like, okay, this is a mic where I actually got laughs. Like, this is something real. Oh yeah, the big thing was after the first graduation show, and I had 2 graduation shows from the very first class in 10, I convinced myself that I was funny. That's the first thing you gotta do, is convince yourself that you're funny. Because then the experience you can get. I also at some point was like, at first I thought I can't get experience because I'm not young enough or I don't have the time. But then by in that moment in 11 in the fireworks, I convinced myself that I could get experience. So taking the class, doing some mics, but still I was doing a lot of electives and took a sketch class. I remember I had a great Herman Cain bit, Herman Cain sketch. This was like the month when Herman Cain was leading. It was like 999 he had revealed, and it was before the sex scandals that were inevitable. And for anyone listening in the future, we're in the months where Ben Carson and Trump are at top of the race, and that'll seem funny to you guys when they both drop out after New Hampshire. Or it'll seem funny that I was completely wrong about that. But they'll probably. It's unlikely after New Hampshire either of them will be leading any polls. Let's see here. So then, okay, so doing that, I'm doing a lot. It's basically like being a freshman in college. It's like I'm getting a survey of a lot of different areas, but not focused. I remember like then I was like doing a lot of improv, and it was like June. I had a million improv shows in like level 4, and like on this like it wasn't a house team, man. It was like their JV team. Like if you've completed 3 classes, you can be in a team, and everyone was nice, but like I didn't feel like I had chemistry with any other people. And I think the coach, while doing a good job, wanted big choices, meaning like big physical choices. And that's not at all my strength.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I got to this point where I'm like, I'm sick of watching improv. Because when you're doing improv and really into it, you're like, enjoy watching it too. It's the same thing as improv and golf are very similar, but done by very different people. Golf, once you do it a little, it's enjoyable to watch. But if you're not into doing it, you can't watch it at all.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with improv. So then I decided I quit improv, and I decided from now on I'm going to only do one thing at a time. I think I took a sketch class, an SNL sketch class, not the one at the pit where you actually get to have a show, but just a writing one with Ali Farrakhan. Oh yeah, there's this woman who's now a bigger stand-up named Emily Heller. And I remember talking to her, like, I do stand-up, but like I'll do it a couple times a week, and I'm doing a million things. And she's like, no, I perform constantly. And her saying that, I didn't immediately implement that, but I realized that doing stand-up meant performing constantly and not doing it a couple times a week while you do 3 other things.
Mm-hmm.
So that was good. Yeah, and she's doing very well, and I think I'm gonna listen to her episode of Todd Barry soon. I'm listening to all the Todd Barry podcasts, which I recommend to all the young comics out there. Yeah, this is awesome. You're great. You're a great interviewer.
Thanks, dude.
Okay, let's keep going.
You're a great subject. All right, so you stopped taking other classes. You stopped sketch. You stopped improv, and you
Yes.
just focused on stand-up.
Yeah, so it's 2012, getting into the fall. Oh yeah, I remember I did a bringer show, and like, or a couple bringer shows where they basically said to me like, because the thing is you do the show to bring your friends, but then there's like an industry person, and they'll like kind of let you know like you're not serious enough. Like I thought I was funny, like and it was like it didn't have a great set a couple times because some bringer shows everyone has a great set, and sometimes it's just a minimal number of people. I also think there's nothing. I mean, people shouldn't do like anything where they're getting scammed, bring a million friends, but there's nothing wrong with a person starting out needs to get comfortable. They want to do some bringer shows. At least when I consider myself this, I understand it. Though it would be better people who are considering doing that if you can make friends with someone who has a bar show. If you can bring 4 or 5 people to a bar show, they'll give you a spot.
Right.
And if you want to tape, you could pay a cameraman for the same amount you're paying the bringer. So yeah, I would. The bringer show is a little easier, but there's really not. There's any show, a lot of shows will let you be on if you bring 5 people, because 5 people to a show in New York is a lot.
Yeah.
And those shows won't be charging $20 a person and 2 drink minimum. They might be charging $5 a person and no drink minimum.
Right, or 2 drinks and no cover.
Yeah,
something manageable.
Yeah, so like bringers is they're basically paying 30 or 40 at the bringer show, and they could pay 10 or 20 or even 5 at another show. So like bringers are just a more expensive version. Okay, so it's 2012. So I started counting. Okay, this is a big thing, but I started counting how much stand-up I did. And I'm very motivated by numbers. So starting counting made me want to do it more. And it was always like, I'm going to pick a date and do 100. And I didn't get there very quickly. But 2012, in the fall, I started doing it like 4 times a week. And I'd be like, oh, I did 11 this month. That's wonderful. And I had met in level 3, I met Jeffrey Paul, who's he's a professional stand-up, and I think he does commercial acting and some acting.
Great guy.
Yeah, he's a great guy. He would also like, you're doing a good job, Fred. He was very helpful. He was always very nice. I think sometimes I even did shows with him where it's like maybe it was technically brave, like, oh, you bring a couple people. But like he did some shows, so like those were really nice, and maybe sometimes you'd even get a tape. And so I did some shows, some stuff with him, and he was giving me advice and stuff. And I think I did something in Long Island with him at one point. Like he was just always he was very encouraging. And I was doing it like 4 times a week. So I was getting to like maybe now I had done. At some point in that, I got to the point where I did enough mics that I wasn't nervous before a mic, which is a very important thing to get to. people are very nervous when they start the mics. I think between doing 20 or 50 mics, you're not nervous anymore, and that's really useful thing to get to. And people should realize that. Even I think people should try to just do multiple mics in a night, which I wasn't doing. I didn't start doing multiple mics in a night till later, but that's how you really get better. Is when you kind of like I'll do one and then do another. Okay, so then the Hurricane Sandy hits and like we take a week off, and I'm still doing it well. My job also I was clearly in the doghouse. In my job, I actually started because basically from 2011 July 4th to about to the rest of that year, I started working not as hard because I was like focusing on comedy. Then in 12, I slowly got better at my job, and by the time it was the fall, I was actually doing great at my job and doing like stand-up 4 times a week, and it was all really good. But I was in the doghouse with a person high up enough, and like they weren't going to let me out of the doghouse, like they wouldn't really talk to me or whatever. And then so then in the end of 13, I applied to Magnet's sketch program, so I got on a sketch team there. And I ended up in the beginning of 13 focusing on that. And then I got laid off. I got engaged too. I got engaged and then laid off within 2 weeks.
Huh.
It was funny because I got engaged. They all clapped for me in the office the next day. Then like 2 weeks later I get laid off, and very few people who had clapped for me reached out to me, which always kind of made me kind of sad. But I guess that's kind of how it is. I know people have gotten laid off and I didn't reach out to them. So I kind of maybe held some grudges, but then I realized later that's silly. That like it doesn't really matter. So even though I got laid off, I theoretically had more time, but I was also more like depressed or like more. I was out of the rhythm of doing stuff. So I don't know. I didn't really. I did a couple mics, but I was really focused on the sketch team, and it just wasn't going well. The sketch team. It was I'm not blaming the people, but the setup was very much. They had 9 writers and 6 sketches a show, so it was more like we were competing against each other. And it was like I just wasn't. I mean, I wasn't like what do you call it? My sketches were okay. Everyone's sketches were about as good. Some were clearly better than mine, so I didn't get that many sketches in there. And my cold reading was the worst on the team, so I didn't get cast any speaking parts. We were also acting in it. So I was very much like I had just been laid off, and then I was projecting that onto like the poor performance I was having on the sketch team, and just kind of brooding. And also I was planning my wedding. So I was planning a wedding that my wife's parents were paying for. It was it wasn't a cheap wedding, not like a 1% wedding, but maybe like a 5 or 10% wedding. So I was planning this wedding, and it was weird to be planning an expensive wedding while you don't have. I was still getting paid. For 3 more months. So there was a little lack of sense of urgency. So there was like a week where I watched all of Battlestar Galactica. Like there was a day in which I watched all of season 3. First half of that season much better than the second half, by the way. And I remember going to like a sketch team members of mine sketch show at the Pit, and like then just complaining to them. Like I was just in like this complainy kind of mode. Like, oh man, I'm not doing well on the sketch team, and I don't know, whatever. I was just in this like really negative mode. So eventually I get, the sketch team ends, I got a job in April, right before the money ran out. And that's kind of just show, clearly there was some incentive for me to look harder when I knew I was going to stop getting paid.
Of course.
It ended up working out well financially, because I got salary and then severance also, and then I got a job. So like I used the severance to pay off the rest of my student loans.
Nice.
So since then, it's been weird. And then also like had this wedding and got some wedding money. So it ended up being, I went from like 20 something living paycheck to paycheck to like some with some money in the bank, and now I have because my parents are in debt, but now I have a second family that's not in debt. So I feel like it's almost like I became like a from a lower middle class person to like an upper middle class person or something. Like it's like a lot of just great stuff happened, but I wasn't doing any stand up. Also, and this is what I would tell every young comic, in 2012, after 6 months of being serious about it, I realized you've got to save money. So I cut expenses. I quit caffeine. I quit buying any drinks out. Like I drink alcohol and I'll pay for that. But in general, I just drink water and always generally try to drink tap water. And all kinds of other things. I did everything I could to save money. Your money saved, that's your freedom. Otherwise, you're kind of just spinning your wheel. I mean, if you're getting better at comedy, that's another asset. But you need to be saving money. Like I'm looking in the room right now, and Josh has cigarettes here. That's young comics should all quit the cigarettes because you're paying $200 a month if you smoke a pack a day or whatever the amount is. In the future, it'll be even more. To a conservative person, and a lot of you hate conservative people, who's literally telling you a product that kills you. Sorry about lecturing. I got lecturing now.
Well, I don't want to make it about me, but look, I don't smoke. I smoke a pack every 3 days or whatever.
Oh, okay, that's better. That's why you're only paying $66 a month. That's
yeah.
fine.
Well, I'm trying to quit.
I said I wouldn't do anything visual either. Yeah, I get
but
it.
I clearly am saving my money though, Fred. You look around, there's not a TV in here or anything.
That's good. I've also, I like video games. I was so into them.
Yeah.
But I mean, I realize it's clearly a waste of time. It's giving yourself it's for achievement motivated people like I think I am.
Mm-hmm.
Is that arrogant to say you're achievement motivated?
No, because I identify with what you're saying.
Okay, good. So you're giving yourself these things to achieve that don't do anything.
Right.
You could just find other things to achieve. It's the same way like I would be very into board games and very competitive. But you need to just take those juices and go be competitive at something that matters. Not just beating your friends at a game they don't care about and then drunkenly bragging about it.
See,
that's something I'd love to do.
I disagree, like, in that, like, I do understand the competitive and the idea of achievements or whatever, but, like, the thing that I've noticed from not having had video games for, like, going on about 6 months is that there is a part of me that, like, even on nights where I've done, say, 3 mics or even, you know, 1 mic and then 2 mics that had 15-20 audience in them, you know, so where it feels kind of like a show.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like, even on nights like that,
get better.
Oh yeah, like, but even on nights like that, I wanted to come home and play video games.
Yeah, if that's how you unwind. No, I'll come and watch a little TV.
Because I think that the added aspect of mental engagement, like, it's something that my brain craves. Yeah. Even if I'm not doing stand up. Plus, there's also the aggressive thing of, like, I usually play like games that are
like shooters.
Either no, like, just like Grand Theft Auto based, like the Scarface game for PS2, the Godfather game for PS2. Man.
Those seem awesome.
Yeah, those games are like some of the greatest, and also sports games, you know, which as you can identify with, like, you have the like, I like the aggression of the games, the competitive nature of the games, and also the stats and the keeping the statistics and keeping track of that.
If I was single, I'd probably still play it. See, I've got working 40 hours a week,
right?
Comedy and producing shows a lot of hours a week. Then wife somewhere gets some hours. And then traveling between things. So there's really not a lot of time. And if I'm tired, I don't want to play the games. The thing with the sports games is the online Madden is the most frustrating thing ever. Because it's just like I start losing and I just get so angry.
No, I don't play against people. I play against the computer.
Yeah, that used to be good.
Play against people,
but now
that's too much for me. But
it's just so frustrating.
So going back to it seems like you never had a problem with the idea of investing in stand-up comedy, whereas a lot of people have a problem paying for anything, paying for classes, paying for mics. Was that a thing that you were that came maybe from coming out of classes like you did, or did you just accept it as a fact of that you
I was very lucky. I didn't have a practical major. I majored in political science, which I would recommend against anyone doing because political science degree doesn't give you an edge in any profession. Also, I learned was people's opinions, which I don't think is. I don't understand how you can get a college degree in opinions, but I did, so I didn't have that. I had a management minor, and my friend got me an interview at Morgan Stanley. There was I had a good GPA. The derivatives were growing. The derivatives were basically a way for people to invest in the mortgage market even more. This is 2005. So the reason why the crash was so bad is because there was so many derivatives. People were way more into these mortgages than they would have been otherwise. So they needed a lot of people to track these derivatives. So I got an interview for operations. She got me into the second round. 200 people in the interview. 100 people got the job. I think a part of what got me there is the good GPA. I was more interesting to talk to than a lot of the other people. So that was already, in that big a group, you'll put someone in who is just more interesting. So since then, I've been lucky to earn, a good amount of money. So I've always had the money for that. And I think of it as anything it's like going to grad school, getting into comedy. I literally am doing it instead of going to grad school. So yeah, grad school costs a lot more. Grad school is also grad school is full time for 2 or 3 years, and then you're paying them tens of thousands of dollars. So comedy's a lot cheaper than that. I remember even saying that. Yeah, so that's why you definitely have to invest in yourself. I know people who only do free mics, that's people I only do free mics, and it's but what if you spend more time there? Your time's worth something. Would you rather, let's say you went to a free mic that took 2 hours, or a paid mic that you pay $5 and the mic takes an hour. So the paid mic's a better deal if your time's worth more than $5 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And if your time isn't worth more than $5 an hour, maybe you should kind of get yourself set up in that way, with a way to earn money at a decent clip before you pursue comedy. Because even if it's I'm very serious about it, but it's still a luxurious thing to pursue. So people will complain that they're poor, but they're spending 40 hours a week pursuing comedy. That's one of the big reasons you're poor. It's not. I don't think it's society. It's that you're spending 40 hours a week pursuing something that's luxurious, and is only able to support a few people.
Do you when you first started doing it, was it just for the pure pleasure of it, or was there always an idea of making money at it someday, or was that?
It was a hobby. As soon as I became serious, I'm definitely trying to make money from it. And I also feel Get Good, maybe the way I make money will be something different, like a different format of a show, or in a different medium. Also, new mediums are always cropping up. But my goal is to find a way to make money from it, and not necessarily just a living, but make a lot of money for it. I didn't become there's a line I really love in season 3 of Mad Men. Betty Draper is for non-Mad Men fans are gonna hate this thing, but whatever. Betty Draper is being courted by a rich older guy named Henry Francis, and she's married to Don Draper, a great-looking guy. And he basically says to her, because basically it's obvious that he could probably it seemed like he could maybe. A lot of guys would just be okay, I'd sleep with her. This is never going to work out. But he says to her, I'm not into this thing. I'm not into the tragedy of this thing. And that's a great life philosophy. Don't get into anything thinking it's not going to succeed. He's in it to succeed. And then the next second he tells her a plan where she's able to get out of her marriage and they get married. Because he's a man of action. And he's awesome. And then their marriage is not... And then whatever. Then whatever happens in their marriage later and other things that happen in the show, whatever. But... yeah, don't be into the things for the tragedy of it. If you're into things for the tragedy of it, it's probably because you're miserable and depressed, and you should get help for that first.
I agree.
So yeah, I'm into comedy because I always wanted to be successful at something, and when I was 20, however old I was on July 4th, 2011, that was the thing I decided to be successful in, and that's why I'm here. And it's not also people say comics are people who can't be successful at anything else. That's not me. I could be successful at anything else. I had another career that was doing just fine, and then I believe I could do a lot of things. So no, you don't have to be miserable, and you don't have to be completely unsuccessful at anything else to do comedy.
So I think speaking of your hard work and your work ethic, I think a lot of that is obvious in how much you do comedy and the fact that you produce shows. But I guess a lot of people assume but might not know how much writing do you do?
That was a big problem. I wasn't doing a lot of writing. I would first also you're doing bringer shows or random shows. You're writing for the show. You're I got a show. I got to actually write something. And I knew an early mentor of mine would say it's more important to get on stage than to write. So I took that literally. I'll take things pretty literally sometimes, and I would just do. I'll just do a lot of mics. A year ago this time, I was just doing mic, and listening to the tapes, but not spending a lot of time writing. And it was recently, or I've recently gotten better that I always listen to all the tapes now, and what I do is listen to the tapes and then I write from that. So I have a process where I have new ideas and I write. I don't just start blank slate. or do like some kind of like diary-ish thing that's supposed to become stand-up. I know people do that, like it's like the artist way or whatever, or something. I don't know that much about it. I spend my time, now I really write, and I've gotten really into since like right before I realized I was going to make a tape in September. So since around like late August or early September, that the jokes need to have a best version of the wording, and I need to pursue that, and to get and also to get rid of filler words, which I've worked on a lot. Jeff Paul saw me perform last January, and he said, "You say the word yeah a lot." So then I started counting, and I was saying the word yeah 8 times a minute.
Wow.
So now I've reduced it. When I'm doing stand-up, I never say the word yeah. Or maybe once or twice a set in a bad set. Then there's a million other degrees of filler words. Or whatever, what do you call it, like. Get rid of those. Then there's a third level, so and. So really is when a comic's saying so, they're like, listen to me. And when you're saying and, you're saying, I'm afraid to pause. So this is a way I can say a word and change topics. So I get rid of those. I count those words now. Then there's probably other ones. And then also I realized I might be too crazy about it because I see pros who say so and it doesn't really matter. Not everyone has to have an economy of words like that. So maybe I've gotten too crazy about it. Maybe I'll go the other way at some point. But I'm hoping I'll get away from all the filler words and then get really comfortable and conversational and still not have them.
Right, like just get rid of the bad habit as opposed to be consciously thinking of it every time. Do you dedicate a certain amount of time a week to writing, like a disciplined thing, or you just...
Well, the subway is a fact of life, and that's a lot of my writing time. Subway, I'm listening to tapes, rewriting stuff, sometimes before bed, but it's a lot of time in between things. If I have a lot of tapes I haven't listened to, I'll then do less mics and catch up on the writing. That's also the thing. People think it's the number of mics. You should probably, I'd say, I'm not someone who thinks you have to do a joke 10 times in front of 10 different people to see if it's funny.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do a joke at one mic and I'll kind of have a good idea. Sometimes I'll even do a joke in front of the mirror and have a good idea, or I'll do a fake mic where I just tell the new jokes to my wife. But you hear yourself saying it. Also, you can kind of adjust. The crowd's giving you a certain amount of laughs. If the crowd's giving you 0 laughs or huge laughs on everything, you're not going to learn much. Though it's still great to do the shows where it's still good. There's still usefulness to do both of those because with huge laughs, that makes you feel good. And that means they think you're funny, and that's great. And then with 0 laughs is good because you could turn it to like a 1-minute show where you're just basically showing yourself that you can say all the lines without stumbling. And also that you can, then comics will, in a 0 laugh mic, will then talk about how they're making themselves hate the jokes and hate themselves. That's in your head. If everything getting 0 laughs, it doesn't tell you anything about the jokes, but you're just getting better at doing it. And you'll probably be in some crappy show where you got to just keep going. So you shouldn't start complaining if you don't get laughs. Unless you're able to complain in a way that brings back the crowd, that's fine. But it's got to. Yeah, then that could be that's your tool. What was I saying? So it's always a relative thing. The best thing is the place where you're getting a lot of laughs, and then you do one joke that doesn't get laughs, and you're like, oh, I can tighten this bit, get rid of that. Sometimes I'll get rid of too much because I'm getting rid of stuff that actually explains it. And then I won't realize that the joke's not funny anymore because I got rid of the connecting tissue. Mm. But in general, if I'm trying to make a laugh, I'm really going for a laugh on every line. And then it's frustrating it doesn't happen. But when I'm doing stand-up, I want people to be laughing very often. Otherwise, it's time for me to improve, or maybe it wasn't a good audience. I wouldn't say that. But if I'm not getting laughs every line or two, then there's something to be improved, and I should figure out what it was. Maybe I chose the wrong jokes to do. Or maybe I should have done some crowd work and opened them up or whatever. But yeah, that's the goal, is a laugh every other line. I'm not a storyteller that's bad about them. But I just in general, when I see people's sets, the first punchline should be pretty early, or I'll start tuning out. I guess I assume a lot of the audience is the same way. I would say, you definitely. I try to put the first punchline on the first line, but I would say give me a punchline by 30 seconds or a minute. Mm-hmm. Even if it's a story, find a way to intro the story funny. Same thing with a podcast. If the first 5 minutes is depressing, I don't listen to the rest.
Yeah, I try to avoid that. I don't know.
No, we had a good open.
Oh, because of you, yeah.
No, you just
I'm
opened
talking
it.
about for other
You didn't do
episodes.
announcements. You didn't do the worst move in podcast is if you open by complaining that no one's listening. Then
why would I do that?
people do that. People do that, and then everyone. I assume no one's listening after that. Yeah. So that's the worst. That's
I
the
would
worst.
assume, honestly, that this is probably going to be heard by millions of people.
Oh, eventually.
Eventually.
It's just it just until it happens.
Yeah, I mean, for now, it's like it's not being created for who's going to listen to it now.
Oh, yeah.
That's the whole idea. The whole idea of this whole podcast is definitely with the long term and like the future.
Exactly, getting better.
Yeah, because it's like there's nobody I'm interviewing is famous yet.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
I'd like to think that everybody that I've had on both of my podcasts so far has the opportunity to really be something special, and I feel the same for myself. So, like, if nobody else is capturing these moments, then why not me do it now?
That makes sense.
You know what I mean?
You need everyone to either become famous, have kids, because then it'll be amazingly interesting for their kids to listen,
Right.
or die young and tragically.
Right.
That's the hope.
That's fine. If any of my previous guests died tragically, though, that would suck.
Oh no, that would be bad. That would be an interesting idea for a podcast. It's you basically every week you pick the most suicidal seeming comic on and you interview them, and then you.
That was actually my inspiration behind this episode.
Oh damn! You bet wrong.
I know you got a lot to live for, son.
But you pick the most and then you just basically banking on
Well, that's why
when
I'm the
those
host.
people kill themselves. This is really dark. When those people, I'm willing to do dark humor. I think suicide's horrible. I take it very seriously when anyone talks about it. I'm only talking about it on this podcast because I'm not suicidal at all and super happy. But you're basically just getting lottery tickets. It's like a death pool, and then when the person kills himself, the episode will get at least 100 listens.
At least.
Yeah, you call the podcast the pity listen.
Nice. Well, why don't
Oh no, rest in pod.
No, that's not even that good.
Yeah.
There's probably, let's see, I don't know. Who
And then
knows?
in sweeps, not the podcast have sweeps, it's not a serious thing. In sweeps, someone has to kill themselves on the podcast. Yeah,
Well-
just dark humor, folks.
Well, I'll probably do it. I just probably won't name the podcast. Like, I'll probably have them think it's the Podversation, but it's really the thing secretly of like, yeah, this guy's gonna kill himself.
Yeah.
No, I don't care about like. Well, that's the other thing is like I don't care about how many people actually do listen.
It's see, the word practice is very important. Mics are practice. Even shows, everything's practice. So as long as you got practice, then that's good. So like you practice doing a bar show where there was only 2 people. You practice doing a mic where there was 0 laughs, and where the person before you just talked about how he wanted to kill himself, and the host didn't bother to even it out, or knew that it was impossible to even out because it's just for depressed white dudes. So everything is practice.
Oh man, there's other stuff I want to ask you, but we're coming up on an hour.
Oh no, that's good. We don't because it's good for people to download or listen to.
Yeah, I know. And who knows? If I ask you one question, you could probably.
Oh no, I'm thinking about how I missed
brilliantly.
3. Yeah, I missed like 3 more. If I'm on a second time, we'll talk about 2013 to 2013 and a half to whatever the president is then.
Yeah, and I also want to ask you about producing shows and hosting and all that stuff.
So producing shows, you're not making just because you're not making money, it's still a job. You should treat it like a job. Work hard, think of as much things as you can, show up early, treat the venue owner like a client, book comics who are professional, just run everything professional, be organized, all that stuff. Treat it, just be professional. Also, you need to get people who aren't comics to come to your show. Otherwise, it won't be sustainable. Because comics are going to come because they think they'll be on a future a show. And some of them will be. But it's not really sustainable. It's not a really sustainable model.
How'd you get into it? Did you ever think you would be producing shows?
I got into it by 2 words. Of course, it was a very natural fit, but 2 words, Patrick Holbert.
Right.
I wanted to produce a show. First of all, QED opened where I produced my shows. opens around the corner from me in November. I didn't know it opened. I found out about it because I was hosting like Patrick Holbert, and he booked me on his show. Then I started going to the mics there, and just more like all that kind of stuff. And then Patrick produced the show, so I'm like, will you help me produce the first show so that she'll say yes, so the camera would say yes, and that helped a lot. Especially then also the fact that I had a bunch of ideas because I didn't want to do you need an idea. It's not like, oh, we're producing Fred's show. Who the hell is Fred? It's the duo stand-up show because that's a different idea. There's not that many duo stand-up shows. But there is duo stand-up out there because it's like Amy and Tina and Key and Peele have versions of that, and then there's other ones like there's other less famous but more stand-up-y examples of that too. And then also it's duo stand-up, so then then Patrick could just host with me, so that's even better. So that's an easy pitch to do. Also, I would say the problem is I would say take whatever they have open, but then if you have maybe no one comes, that's a little tricky. But you don't expect an amazing time slot. Also, it seems much more satisfying if the venue has kind of cares about it being a good show. I did a show at one bar that they didn't really care. I never even met the person who booked the room, and it's harder. It's harder. So, but yeah, there's a lot of other things that could be a whole podcast. But,
all right, yeah, because you're also just wanted to, and hosting was just a natural thing to fall into, also.
Oh, hosting shows.
Because you're a great host.
Oh, thank you. The thing is, I don't look or seem like a host, so I don't know if people think of me as a host. I like doing it. I like the selflessness of it. You're kind of sacrificing yourself for the show. Also, there's a lot of white guys who anyone could book on their show, and they're all equally funny because especially at the low levels, it's like a pyramid. There's a lot of people at the bottom who are funny but equally funny. But then for some reason, people do book a lot of white guys to host the shows. So I'm hoping people would see me as a host because it'd be easier for me to get the host spot on a lot of these shows.
Right.
Than one of the 3 white guy spots, and there's so many funny white guys. Just like there's so many funny of every other group. I do the same thing. I always try to have diversity on the show, meaning, I'd say at least one woman and at least one non-white person. But really, don't only hold up to that. Just more diversity is good too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just really don't want to produce a show that's all white men. That feels kind of feels kind of lazy or something.
Yeah. Plus, it's just there's no, yeah, it is lazy.
And then it's like it shows it's all white men and there's one woman who's white, and it's sort of like, okay, we clearly just wanted to book all white men, and we found a woman also.
Or you're just booking from a more narrow-minded perspective. Either like, let me just book all my friends who just happen to be white dudes, or I don't know.
Yeah, also, don't give all the comics the same amount of time. I definitely give the more experienced comics more time. And also budget. Oh yeah, I map out the time if you have a 90-minute show, book 75 minutes of stand-up because you need buffers. If you book 90 minutes of stand-up in a 90-minute show, you're gonna go over.
Right.
I don't think no one really the audience and the venue. They don't really want you to go over. 90 minutes is probably enough for your show. So just book less people. You can put people on another show. Trading spot. I'm making this go forever, but
no, I love it. This is great.
You'll naturally book people who will then book you. But if you think of trading spots as like some kind of like contract, that's not. You're going to end up I call it a spot for a spot makes the whole world hack. You're going to just end up because you can't just book your spots based on who's good at producing. Because you gotta book people you gotta book some people who will never book you, and you gotta really just you gotta book people who are good. Like, it's great if someone's good and a producer, then that makes sense. But don't only book people who will put you on their show because think of the show as a brand, and you want to create a quality brand.
All right. Fuck, man, that was great stuff at the end. A lot of people even me. like I have questions about producing and stuff. And
Yeah, well, you have a lot of experience from hosting and producing mics, so it seemed like something you'd be interested in doing.
yeah, most definitely. But like you just even that mathematical formula, 75 minutes for a 90-minute show.
It's all
Brilliant.
simple math. Don't also assume that because you're a comic, you're an artist, and you can't be good at math or you can't be organized. I don't think anyone's helped by being poorly organized.
I agree.
And organization is a lot of just work. You can also copy what other people have done in a lot of ways. You can't copy people's material, but you can copy their organization.
Mm-hmm. And then
So anyone could probably get at least more organized. I wasn't a very organized person when I had that college TV show, and now I probably am. So you can get better at it.
All right. Thank you, Fred, for being on the show. Thanks for everybody for listening. I mean, that's I guess it for now. And yeah, and we'll do the top 5 one.
Oh yeah. Oh, awesome.
Because the top 5 one's gonna be really good. Yeah, because you're like me, a sports fanatic. So.
Oh, nice.
All right. Anyway, thanks for listening. Thanks, Fred. Take care. We'll see you.